Hey, it's Mirella Manelli, and today I'm going to show you how to achieve this golden brunette shade using all Kenra color. I'm going to show you my go-to tips and tricks on how to achieve this look. So now let's go ahead and get started. So to get started on this technique, I'm going to be utilizing her natural parting, which is around the center and then from the apex down behind the ear, and then we're going to be working in the back starting from the bottom up. So for her look, I want to make sure she is still staying kind of deep on the underside, but we want to create some dimension underneath. So what I'm going to be doing is just going 2 fingers deep here for my section. And I'm going to create some horizontal highlights right on top of this bottom face frame. I don't really want a lot of highlights coming from her hairline because I don't want so much brightness for the face frame, especially when she brings it in towards the front. I want to make sure that we are still leaving a lot of depth here. And especially with brunettes, I like to keep their face frame relatively dark still. We don't want to take the highlights like all the way towards the front unless their primary shade is that blonde shade. So sometimes I like those highlights to appear behind their natural hair. So I'm gonna go in with some highlights by taking a slice and then weaving it with my comb. I'm gonna insert my board almost halfway through and just push that hair up and apply my lightener towards the mid zone, making sure I'm doing thorough saturation. And then doing a few little brush strokes up towards the root area, but I want to keep everything still pretty rooted. So for this project, I'm using Kenra Professional Blue Powder Lightener at a 1:2 mixing ratio with 30 volume developer. For my next section, I'm going to go in with some diagonal backs starting at this back part of her ear, right where that bone is, like right above the occipital. I'm gonna bring that towards the center. And I'm gonna do the same technique. Now the reason why I decided to go in with 30 volume developer for her application is because she does box dye at home. And I know she's told me that she's done a really good job of applying the color mostly on her roots. But just as a little bit of precaution, I decided to go in with a higher developer so that way we could get a little bit more lift out of this. And then of course she has very healthy hair, so I felt really good about using a 30 volume formula for her. And I'm gonna repeat this process on the other side. So now that I have this occipital region done, my horizontal is gonna give me that nice blanket coverage, giving me a lot of uniformity, especially when she wears her hair up. And then I have my diagonals that are gonna give me a little bit of a ribboning effect. So I'm just gonna continue on the back side of her head, doing the same bricklayering placement of horizontals and diagonal backs. Still doing my little slice and then weaving it with my weaving comb. Now in the back here, really quickly, it's gonna get kind of wide. So if that happens for you, normally I just kind of split this into 2. Just so I have a little bit more control. But if you are able to get some extra wide foils and just do one placement, save some time, definitely go for it. I'm kind of old school. I like my pop-up foils and I like having the most control possible. So this just works for me. I'm gonna continue on with my diagonal backs and horizontals until I get to the top of the head. Now that the back is complete, there's about 10-ish foils going on through the back. Now my goal with the face frame is I want it to be dimensional. I want it to be subtle towards the root area. I don't want it to be super bright right here, but I want to make sure it has enough impact. So a great way to see where the hair naturally wants to have that fringe area is just by combing this out and pinching this hair, and it just kind of has this natural separation, which is about right here. So this is a good indication of where I want that part to be for my face frame. So I'm gonna use that as my guide and just kind of clean it up a little bit, and I'm gonna bring that right behind the ear. Now the reason why I go right behind the ear is because the ear area is one of the most forgotten areas during highlighting. You don't want to create a black hole here, so we're gonna make sure that we're gonna add some type of highlight through this area. So I'm gonna go ahead and clip this away. And usually most people have a little bit of sparseness right here on this temple area. That's totally normal, but this is kind of where you want to also separate it and just create two different sections. So I'm gonna push this over to the side for right now. And I'm gonna focus more on this bottom section. So again, even though her primary shade's going to be brunette, I still wanna make sure there's enough of her natural shade throughout so it still looks natural, it still looks like it belongs to her. It doesn't look weird where it's just like too much blonde. So I'm gonna go ahead and split this right in half. And I'm gonna highlight this section, very similar to how I did the back. But because this is a little bit more of a smaller section, we got those little baby hairs incorporated, you can see we're gonna add a ton of dimension through here. So I'm gonna bring this up a little higher because it is the face frame. I want those highlights to come up a little closer. So a little higher than what we did in the back, because the back was all about keeping it nice and rooted and low maintenance. And this will still relatively be low maintenance as well, but it'll be a little higher up. So this is an area where she can touch up maybe a little bit more frequently, but maybe not so much the back. And now I'm gonna take this next section and we're gonna highlight this entire section. All right, so now that I have these two back-to-back foils right here, I'm gonna do the same exact thing with this top section here. And I am gonna go ahead and comb those little baby hairs right into it, but if the baby hairs don't weave in with my comb, that's totally okay. A lot of times I like to leave these out. Again, I want to keep this natural. If I went and highlighted these, it would look so awkward and cause a lot of attention to come right here towards the temple area, and that's not what we want to do. So I'm going to split this section in half. Now the main reason why I'm also tri-folding these right here on the hairline is because we're working on the front of the face, and in order just to make it a little bit more comfortable for your client, it's just better to fold these up so it's out of their face, because you don't want these like long foils just hanging out here. I think they would probably not feel as comfortable just sitting in your salon processing like that, so that's the main reason why I like to fold those up. And then we're gonna highlight this entire section. Okay, so now that I have her face frame done, I'm gonna continue to work on through this side, going in a diagonal, but this is where I'm gonna start adding in a little bit of background. So since these ones were back to back with very little hair in between, these ones are gonna have a little bit of a subsection. So I'm gonna go back about 2 fingers deep. So again, we're gonna keep kind of on trend with what we were doing in the back, because this side part is considered the interior. So this section is a little wide, but I'm gonna go ahead and split this into 2 again. And I'm gonna take my little slice right on top of that section. So here's my subsection. And I'm gonna go ahead and highlight right on top of that. So now I'm gonna start pivoting. So what that means is I'm gonna create these little pizza slices through the side here. And what that means is we're gonna have a little bit of a wider section towards the interior and a more narrow section towards the front. So by the time we're done towards the top here, we should be landing horizontal right on the top. So now for my next section, we should almost kind of be horizontal right here on the side of the head. So I'm just gonna add in 2 more foils right here and then do the same exact thing to the other side. Now that I'm all done putting the foils on the front, I am gonna let her process, but I wanted to kind of harmonize the front face frame just a little bit more by adding in a tip out. So the tip out is just going to give us a little bit more of a true dark into light, just kind of framing the face ever so slightly. She doesn't have too much drop out in between her foils, so this is just gonna fill in that area. Since this is a fresh first time highlight for her, I don't want the highlights to look super stripy, especially around the face. So I thought adding just a little bit of a tip out is gonna be perfect. So the way we're gonna do that is just isolate out these front subsections. And you can see she's got just a little bit of hair here. We're definitely going to be tipping out this section as well. And I think I'm gonna go a little further back there. So we're gonna take out the 3 subsections and we're just gonna primarily focus on this. So I'm bringing that hair in the opposite direction and I'm just gonna go ahead and tease this. And my goal is to just remove about 75% of the hair from this section. This is the only section that I am teasing. And then do my application. Now, kind of a good indication if you are using pop-up foils, they usually go about 1 inch above that fold line. That's really where I want to focus my saturation. And I also like to open this hair up a little bit. And then we're just gonna push this lightener up. So I'm just gonna put this aside for right now. And then I'm gonna do the same thing to the bottom section. Now for this bottom section, I'm just doing 2 of the subsections, not 3 like we did towards the top. The reason why I like this technique too is it just makes it look like she's been getting highlights. So it's not looking like it's her first time getting highlights. It just adds a little bit of a rootedness to the ends there, so we get that nice bright ends. So once you have these put in, I'm gonna go ahead and just tuck those right on back, just allow them to process a little bit longer and allow the natural warmth from her head to kind of do its thing. And I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. We're gonna let her process for about 30 minutes. I'll give it a little check and see exactly how her foils are lifting. I think overall our goal is to get to at least a level 8, and then we'll be doing her final toner. So now that it's been 30 minutes, I went ahead and shampooed out her foils, and I'm really loving this lift we got. So what we're gonna do now is finish off with a color melt toner. So what I'm gonna be using is Kenra Demi-permanent 5N just at the root area, and we're gonna blend that into the 7N. Because she lifted actually to more of a level 7, I want to tone at a level 7, and our overall goal is to get her to a golden shade. And adding the N on top of this gold is just gonna kind of almost like enhance the gold, but also remove a lot of the brassy tones. So we want to still keep it really rich and golden, and adding the N on top of this gold is gonna be like the perfect shade. So what I'm gonna do now to further prep her hair is use the Porosity Equalizing spray. Now, the reason why I love this product is because it basically lives at a 4.5 on the pH scale, so that's where the hair likes to be in its happy place. And overall, it's gonna help with even color absorption. So if you are working with somebody who has porosity issues, or maybe you just wanna create a really nice canvas before going in with some toning, this is a really great prep product for any color surface. So now that I got that on, we're gonna go ahead and start her application in the back. So what I'm starting out with in the back is adding my 5N right at the root and just kind of dragging it right down to that highlight line. And I'm doing this in vertical sections, so that way it just makes it really easy to blend. And then when I'm done with this vertical application, we're gonna switch to horizontal and add our end shade. And this is a really great way for you to cross-check what you're doing with your application, so that we can make sure you're just getting all of the right spots. So I'm just gonna go ahead and drag that down. And then here I'm gonna apply my lighter shade, which is the 7N. Basically what you're trying to do here is just create a nice graduation from 5 into that 7. I didn't want to take her too dark with the shadow. I just wanted the highlights to look a little softened right there at the root. So I'm going to continue on with my application, blending that 5N right at the root, right past that highlight line, and dragging it into our 7N. And making sure to thoroughly saturate. I'm gonna process her for about 15 minutes because I just want to give her a nice general tone, just because I do want to keep that integrity of the gold that we have going on. Just know that the more saturation, the longer the processing time. The less saturation, the less processing time. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up, and then I'll come right back with the final results. And here's the final result of our golden brunette transformation. I really love how this came together. We maintained a lot of depth. We have a ton of dimension, and I really like how her face frame popped. I really think the tip out that we did really kind of brought it together. You can see we have a little extra emphasis along the face frame, but with it not being overbearing. It still looks really natural, rooted, and this is gonna be a very low maintenance look for her to maintain over the next 6 months. If you like this video and you want to see even more amazing hair transformations, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share this video with a friend, and I will see you in the next video.